everyone. My name is Dr. Hal Bradley. I would like to ask us, each and every one of you, that if you enjoyed these shows, please hit like, share, and subscribe after you view the show. Thank you very much. Well, hello, world. Welcome to another episode of the Crisis Victory Show. Today, I've got my co-host on with me. We're going to have a conversation regarding what happens after military service. Pete, say hi to the gang.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? This is Pete. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me on, Hal. It's always fun when we get a chance to do these kind of shows.
It is indeed, but I'd also like to mention that you are also the host of the Break It Down show, and I'd like my audience to be aware that there is access to him on Facebook and what else? Where are you at?
I'm primarily on X. That's where I spend most of my time if I'm going to be on social media. But yeah, Facebook, you can grab me, and I'm glad to talk to folks. So you can email me, pete@breakitdownshow.com, or you can probably get me on the Crisis Victory Show because I know the guy who helps produce this thing.
Yeah, and the Break It Down show is amazing, ladies and gentlemen. So anyway, today what Pete and I wanted to talk about was life after military service. And the reason we bring this topic into play today is because both Pete and I are veterans that came out of the military, had to start rebuilding a life at a social factor that was, I don't know, in my case, Pete, it was a lot less disciplinary than the military lifestyle was. And yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to get out of the military. When you come out, no matter what, though, you were in an institution, and in some form or fashion, you are institutionalized. You know, like when young people who haven't been in, like, I don't know how you could ever get up at 6 a.m. Like 6.
Yeah, exactly.
You get up before then. And by the way, here's how you get up. If you don't, you just work for free doing mopping and all kinds of other stuff for the next month, and you get no money. Like all of a sudden, you're like, I got to get paid.
Well, you know, and another thing too, for the Crisis Victory Show, there are pros and cons to from leaving the military lifestyle. There's a lot of good there. There's a lot of bad there. And what we're talking about today, Pete, are the options that we see that are presented to people as they're ETSing, ending their term of service out of the military. One, the GI Bill, the opportunity to go to college, to get yourself started and being retrained in something else that would be more familiar as a career perspective in the civilian corridor. Unfortunately, we also know that on the con side of this, between the pros and cons, we see a lot of people that come out of the military that have PTSD related injuries, possibly physical injury from combat experience, the readjustment and the reacclimating to being able to understand, comprehend, and function normally in the civilian corridor can be extremely hard on some people. And what's your reflection on that, Pete?
You know, I think every era has its thing that it can't understand, and so right now we're calling it PTSD. But really, you know, we've learned more and more like what it means to separate from service, and it is hard. We know that, and the military wants to do a good job, but it's a giant institution, and so. Like you remember back when the first Gulf War happened and all these guys came back with the Gulf War syndrome, which is a good term for going, we don't know, we don't understand. And we didn't even believe these guys, you know, as an institution. They're like, those guys are putting us on. But years and years later, like, you know, they're like, no, I'm still not putting you on. And so we've had to deal with these aspects of separation. It's a very challenging thing to try to wrap their hands around. And there are a lot of advocates to help folks transition. And I'll say this, just like when you get counseling, maybe Hal's version of counseling is not yours. He's a great counselor. He understands, you know, how to get people through tough times. Maybe you need the next person or the next person or the next person. You have to like be willing to work just as hard at transition as you are at anything else that's important to you, like going to the gym. If you're desperate to get to the gym and will not skip a day, treat transition in the same way, and you will have a better transition.
Well, and that's the benefit of having been in the military, because you are trained, you are given discipline, you have a pattern that you have to follow, and pretty soon you develop a pattern where it becomes instinctive. Right. Uncommon to the civilian world. It also has a lot to do, Pete, with the era that you did your term of service. Mine was during the Vietnam War. Right. When I got out in March of 1974, there were people at the airport screaming at you, calling you baby killer, very, very much against anybody that was in a uniform. I remember visiting my brother, who had been wounded in action in Quezon Valley in Vietnam. and going to Bremerton Naval Base and seeing all those guys in that ward that had been combat injury related injuries, but they also had psychological trauma. Many of them did. But at that time, Pete, we were just learning about PTSD. The Korean conflict was the introduction to the idea. After World War II came Korea, Vietnam. But it was actually at the end of the Korean conflict when they started recognizing that it isn't just physical combative wounds that men were starting to carry back to the United States after their
Right.
German service.
Yeah.
In your era, you're later in the military than I was. Your later time, or I should say earlier time, actually. Excuse me, folks. Uh, by then, PTSD had been established. Vietnam did that. That's what brought it into play, people coming back. And I was in the Martinez VA hospital in April of 1974. And I remember full well how the staff was starting to orient to incoming soldiers that had been going through whatever type of trauma they survived. And they started recognizing and identifying with it. So I would say the actual birth of the understanding of PTSD was a result of the Vietnam War. What's your take on that?
No, I think you're probably right. We were getting a better job, and it's not just Vietnam, right? It's born in the back of all of the World War II guys coming back and
Yes.
just clamming up and drinking and all of those things. And by the way, a repeated episode of that in Korea, because we often leave the Korean fight out, but there's a significant hunk of people coming back that not only are they veterans trying to transition, we just completely forget about their conflict. If it wasn't for MASH, nobody would even talk about the Korean conflict.
Isn't that amazing? You're so
Yeah.
right.
It is. And so when we think about like the genesis of this, we've been trying to sort this out for 80 plus years now. Like how do we, and I'm talking in the modern times, right? Obviously there's, but this is it's a long thing. And when we do break through, like in your era, Vietnam, we started to understand, hey, we got to be better when these guys come back, right?
Yeah.
We got to make sure that we, understand that they're not just like, it's not just shell shock, right? Because that was the thing was, shell shock means like you were on the front lines, in the trenches and in the Battle of the Somme, and you're just like, I don't know what to do. I've been shell shocked, right?
Yeah.
But if you pushed a desk or if you flew a broom and you deployed and you're like, I'm messed up, I don't know why, like that's not shell shock, right? And so it was the iterative process. And now we're looking at things like psychedelics. The U.S. government and its military institutions are looking actively and studying psychedelics as one
Yeah.
of the possible ways to do. So there is this iterative process. So for sure, Vietnam, big jump ahead, huge, baby boomers, right? There's just a
Yeah.
load of people that are messed up and need help. And it's all, this out because you've been on the streets. It's individual where that person is damaged and harmed. And if they're recoverable, it's still delicate and slow. So yeah, the PTSD thing for sure jumped forward with Vietnam.
Well, and you're also aware that I've had 22 years of working in the homeless community, the trap houses, that type of environment. So I've had the opportunity and the honor, if you will, to serve countless homeless veterans over the last 22 years that are out there. And a lot of them that I saw, it wasn't so much drug addiction or alcohol addiction that was what was putting them into play of being homeless, destitute, lack of understanding of how to come into the civilian chapter of their life. A lot of what it was the expectation of, how it is when you're in the military and you're overseas, you're going, hey, I've got 14 more months and I'm home. I'm going to be back to we call it coming back to the world. And they get back to the world and then they find out that it's not everything they thought it was. People changed while they were over there. People transitioned into other forms of understanding their abilities, capabilities, or a lack thereof. And like I said in the very beginning, one of the first things that I recommend to all veterans that I talk to that have been recently discharged is take your GI Bill, find something that you have a strong interest in, and then pursue it academically. Academics is a strong foundation for the rebuilding of the new life that you are now entering into. And I think it is so very important. But working with the homeless veteran community for 22 years, seeing, listening, observing the trauma that so many of them deal with is a lack of getting proper treatment and care when they do return from a combat situation, detached from the way that the United States evolves. Because in this technological era, Pete, we are evolving rapidly. It's not like
Oh yeah.
coming back from
No.
Korea or World War II. It's a
Yeah.
whole different ballgame out there now. But one thing
Yeah.
I guess one thing I'd like to say that benefits the veterans, the military coming back as and becoming veterans, is people now thank them for their service. How many times do you and I get that when we come in somewhere and somebody will recognize you're a vet and you hear
Yeah.
thank you for your service? Heck,
Yeah.
when I got out and my brother got out of the Bremerton Hospital in 69 or 70, I can't remember now. I think it was 70. I mean, people were literally treating him like trash, treating him like garbage. And I was so angry. And that was one of the components that made my decision to go into the United States Army in 1971. But there are options out there for those of you that are listening to me and Pete today. And I want to outline a few of them to you. First off, Pete and I both are PTSD patients. We use the VA medical facility and the mental health institution that's been ingrained and evolved in the VA hospitals that are in your area. And I strongly suggest if you have hesitation, you find yourself confused, or you find yourself becoming defeated because the different lifestyle is uncommon to you, both Pete and I know you back me on this, Pete, we strongly recommend you talk to a mental health facility officer, someone that can do an assessment of your individual situation and then proceed accordingly. The other thing, Pete, is we also have social workers in the Veterans Administration that can help you with career orientation, looking for a job that has a future attached to it. And I don't know. What do you think, Pete?
Well, I mean, every single thing you said is true, and all that advice is great, right? Where I think get stuck sometimes when it comes to transition is there's nothing wrong with me, right? And so we think that. So uh, the second you realize you're doing drugs more than just recreationally, maybe before that, if you can, go start getting help. The VA is desperate to help you, right? The VA is going to screw stuff up. They're going to be a pain in the ass and all those things, but they're desperate to help you. But you have to be the motherfucker. You have to say, "I need your help." And when they're
Yes.
like, and they're not, a lot of the time they're just going to help you. But sometimes you got to twist their arm. You're like, I'll just go to Mexico and get help. And they're like, hold on, hold on, hold on. They actually want to help you. So that's the first thing. Yes,
Yeah.
there's your right? Yes. And you don't have to even know what you want to do. Just get into school and let being in school and going to school be the norm for you.
I
And just
like
start
that.
with that. Yeah. Because you don't have to know. I don't know what I want to do, right? If you're like me and you get out and you have a ton of skills, and everybody's like, "Why don't you drive a forklift?" Nothing wrong with driving forklifts, but I have a different set of qualifications, and nobody knew how to get me a job, and no one was willing to say it. Right? I had to do my own transition for the most part. I had a lot of help along the way, but yeah, it might not be the easiest thing. I mean, I came out of the military with 2 degrees, and I couldn't get anybody to take me seriously in terms of getting a job. They couldn't get me interviews. I'm like, I don't need to fill out applications. Those aren't the kind of jobs I need for my skill set.
Right.
And so folks
Right.
didn't know. And there's a lot of people that get out like that, where they come in with a degree or whatever, like, no, 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 I'm not a below entry level person. I don't work in a warehouse. I'm someone that advises people how to run a warehouse, whatever it is, right? The other thing I would say with all of that, like there are so many resources, and really the onus is on us individually. You know, when you're in the veteran world, our peers will help us. They'll guide us. Like, do more of this, less of that. For sure, have
Yeah.
peers do it, but you've got to be the one. And the system is going to put it on you. They're going to say, you need a better resume. You need to do this. Like, well, hold on. I'm doing all the, like, my resume was great. It was great. But why am I not getting interviews? Is it my fault? I don't know what the keywords are. I can't know what the keywords are when in a job search because
Point taken.
they don't tell me. They're like, oh, we've got this job description, and then how? Check this out. So I applied for a job with a company called PG&E. It's Northern California's gas and electric authority, right? And they sent back a thing. I was going to be like the veteran liaison, right? And so you needed
Oh,
a college
interesting.
degree. Yep, and you needed to be a veteran and a college degree. I got back a letter from them, form letter, months later, and it said you failed to meet the minimum standards. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no,
Wow.
no. I absolutely met them. And what they didn't know was that when you send a letter like that for someone who's desperately trying to find work and you just kick them to the curb with an automated message, you're not helping out on the veteran side. So this is where I put it on the companies. And to PG&E's credit, I emailed their CEO you guys kind of blind emailed and it's like, look, I got this response from you guys months after you guys had this position open, and you said I failed to meet the minimum standards. I
Yeah.
met the minimum standards. And when you say that to someone like me who's been in the military, failure to meet the minimum standards, that means I'm a shitbag.
Yeah.
And I'm not a shitbag. I'm an awesome performer. I can do things. And so I got a call from one of their operations people. And really I was kind of done with that whole thing anyhow. I didn't want to get like a gift from them. So, I didn't pursue that avenue, but it took that kind of shakeup to get them to see like how you communicate matters. So if you run a company and you want to hire veterans, understand like we're a little bit hard to hire. Sometimes we're a little surly. We are probably going to move to the next thing. All of these things are true. But if you don't communicate with us, if you use a robot to sort things out,
Yeah.
I'll just do this. If you run a company and you have enough applications that you can't sort them by hand and really look at them, which is a lot of companies, earmark military experience and just say we commit to talking to each of these people, because I'm telling you, you don't end up homeless as a veteran because too many companies are talking to you. Everybody listen to what I'm
No.
saying here. If companies hire veterans, if they actively act like they want to do it, and I mean actively, like you reach out and you're like, I see that you're a veteran. No matter what, we respond to with a personal email. We respond to every veteran application with the personal email. You may not fit for a job here, but we see you, we hear you, and we're glad to talk to you some more. Can we set up a time? And just spend the time and money talking to these guys to figure out where they will help you. Don't limit us on what we can do by not talking to us or not seeing us when we apply. That gets people on the street. That puts shotguns in people's mouths. You have to
Yeah.
be better at that if you run a big company. I'm sorry. That's just the hard news. It's not all on the veterans. It's on y'all to figure out how to find us. And we are a hard lot to deal with. Granted, I'm going to say one more thing and I'm going to shut up, Hal.
No, no, great. Go.
Veterans, the VA is there to help you. All right. When you don't go sign up for benefits, when you don't push hard on getting more benefits, my friend Josh Montz was shot and killed in Iraq. 15 minutes later, they got him back and he's still alive today. When he separated from the military, get this, not 100% service connected for disabilities. He
Wow.
fucking died.
Yeah. Wow.
So I told him, and I'm like, man, you got to go back. You died for your country. And I'm saying 15 minutes, everybody. That's a long time. We don't know what's coming down the road. If you understand how service connection works, this will make sense. So they downplay a lot of it. It's on us to play the game with them and go back and say, absolutely not. There's more things here. You owe me more. You owe me. You have to do that. And when you don't do that, Congress can never appropriate the right amount of money. Well, Congress is belly aching. Hey, this is expensive, this VA stuff. Good. Don't send people to war. You
Yeah.
can't afford
Yeah.
it.
Well, it's
Go get
pretty.
your benefits. Go get
It's
your benefits. Force them to do what they're supposed to do. It's not about pride. It's not about your ego. It's not about I'm okay. No, go get what you're supposed to get so that these guys can understand the cost of this thing. All right, off my soapbox.
no. I love it. I've been going to the Veterans Administration for 51 years, okay, a long time, and I have seen its evolution. But what is really upsetting me right now is I had a conversation, and I haven't shared this with you yet, but I'll go ahead and do it today.
No.
Last Friday, I got a letter that I had a positive lung cancer test. I just got it. And one of the things that disturbed me about it the most was the call from my doctor doing follow-up, and my doctor is sitting there. They've just laid off almost 10,000 people. We are so screwed up right now, juggling and readjusting, that we can't even see you to begin your testing until the middle of August. Now, this is somebody that just had a cancer diagnosis, which is not frightening to me because a year ago I didn't have cancer. Every year I get my annual inspection, my blood work comes back. And
Yeah.
5 years ago, I had the same thing. I had a positive on cancer. Turned out I didn't have cancer. So, like I said, I'm not really stressing about it at this point.
Yeah.
If I did, it's still at an early stage to where it could be cured, taken care of, no problem. The point that I'm making, though, Pete, is this: with the recent cutbacks of the people, the staff, the employees, they've literally set back the Veterans Administration gains that we've had over the last 10 to 15 years by a decade minimum. And my doctor was just so upset because she said these setbacks that have just been regenerated, effective immediately, these people are laid off, they're gone. And now they're trying to shuffle patients and try to get the time to see the patients coming in. So those of you listening to this, take heed to that. This is probably a temporary problem, and I'm sure they'll get something straightened out and fixed for us. But it's not a perfect world. and not everything evolves. It's like you were talking about corporations, how they should checklist the box that if it's a veteran, by God, no matter what, they should interview. I agree.
Yeah.
One of the problems I ran in, Pete, with people that are on the street that are strung out on drugs and alcohol because they just don't feel they're worth anything in society, they'll sit there and tell me, I flew choppers, or I
Yep.
drove a tank, or I worked in the intelligence field, or I worked at, they had skills, they had powerful skills, but they're being demeaned when they come back into the world, as we call
Yeah.
it, coming back into the United States and society thereof. So, I don't really have an answer for them because I have had
Right.
51 years of the VA. I've watched it evolve. I'm 70 years old. It isn't like that at our age in life or my age in life that you can go out and pick up the pieces and start all over again. You've got to take your trade skills, what you have learned up to these years of life, like so many of us that are the Vietnam era, that served during the Vietnam era, whether you're there or you serve somewhere else is insignificant. What it is it's a time frame that you are active at this
Yep.
point in the game. You're not going to retrain people like that. They're not. So what happens? The younger generation is the first option that companies look for. So what do we do with the veteran? We do what you just suggested. You go down, you talk to the social worker at the VA, and you find out about benefit upgrades. My friend Pat Grady, who was killed by the cartel 3 years ago, he did that. He went to the VA and he was with the 101st, and he was working with the Mont Guard up in the Northern Highlands in Vietnam. He was a hero. He served his country. He did it right. He came back damaged, but he didn't find out until he started digging deeper how much more opportunity he had, like you just brought up with regards to the Veterans Administration.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm with Pete on that. Take a look at what your options are. Go in, become diversified in your direction, if you will, of what the VA can do for you. But they can only do so much. It really is on you. And the other thing is, if you've got the GI Bill, get your butt in school. No matter what, it's almost like a temporary beginning job because you do get paid by the Veterans Administration every month.
Yeah.
And you now have exposure to so many other options. And I feel strong. That's what I did when I was 20 years old. Got out, went right into college, and of course I took off on a vacation and ended up screwing all that up because I picked the wrong career. But the point I'm making is this: that review your options, stay strong in your commitment to yourself and your self growth and development. You don't have to live on that street, brothers and sisters that I've met out there. So many of you. And Pete and I need to remind you also, we have an average of 22 veterans a day committing suicide. 22 a day. That is ridiculous. It's not, there's no reason for it. Both you and I have almost committed suicide at one point in our lives, but something triggered within us to make us seek out the VA, tell them, hey, I'm in this state of mind. I recognize I need assistance. And we took advantage of the assistance. And here we are today. But,
That's 100% true. But
yeah, it is.
So I have suicidal ideation every day. It's like a storm that I get, and I get down, and they've been getting worse lately. Still manageable, right? But that means I've got to get off my butt. I've got to go to the VA, and I've got to say I need a tune-up on my mental wellness. And that this might be a 5, 6, 10, 15, 20-year journey this time. I don't know. Like I got it to where I could manage it, but I'm losing control over the amplitude, right? Which is scary to me because I don't want to kill myself. So even though I'm compelled to by my body and my brain in ways that I can't necessarily control reliably, I have the ability to go do this, right? So same thing, like if you find yourself self-medicating, and I get it, like if life is hard, if it sucks and you're stuck, the VA is desperate to help you. And by the way, it's not just the VA. You can go to the VFW. You can go to your local post. These guys know the system. For sure, the VA system, even with people within the VA, I've had, oh my gosh, it's so crazy, that system. It's so wildly huge and complicated. I'll have people who are trying to help me at the VA say, listen, go to the post over there, whoever, talk to Ray. He's great. I can't help you here, but he knows the buttons to push. And sometimes you got to stand on a desk and you got to get after it and be like, hey, listen, I'm right here in front. I had a guy from the patient or the advocate office, right? Patient advocate office. And he's like, hey, there's veterans in line. I'm like, motherfucker, what do you think I'm on the phone? I'm like, what do you think I am? And if I come down there, I'm glad to come down there, and I'm glad to be the nicest guy. But if I need to go to floor 7 and talk to the big boss and square this
Yeah,
away, I promise
I'm
you,
gonna do it.
I will be there before him. I'll be standing there and be like, I need your ear. And guess what that dude's gonna do? He's gonna fix it because I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
asking for hard things. I want to say one thing to you, Hal, too. Understand this. So as the VA evolves, I've got a lot of friends inside the VA that are doctors, and a lot of them are glad that we have taken folks off the rolls. And the reason why they say that is because there's people in there who aren't doing enough. They worked at a private, talking doctors and nurses now. These are actual people who do this stuff. If they worked at a private practice, they wouldn't be employed. They cannot work to the standard. And so these like it's good to clean house. We've got a lot of dead weight.
yeah. I
So I'll
don't
say that.
disagree with that. I don't disagree with that, Pete. But when you have a small clinic like I go to, it's an outpatient clinic here in the
Sure.
Everett area, out of
Yep.
Seattle. They lose 3 or 4 people in that small environment, and it does in fact create
It
an
does
impact.
impact it. Yeah.
And
But I
the
want to
other
say this
thing,
too. Do you ever use community care?
I don't.
Okay, so here's everybody needs to listen to this. So this is the thing Donald Trump put in place last time and really nailed down community care for us. If you call them and they'll say, "Hey, you have a positive test for lung cancer." Sorry to hear that too, by the way, Hal.
Yeah.
We'll get to you in October, and it's July right now. You say, "That's cool. I'll take community care," and they are required to get you bumped over to whatever local community care is contracted with them, and it's going to be good. It's not going to be bad. It's going to be
No, I was
wonderful.
gonna bring up Catholic Community Services, Salvation
Yeah.
Army, Volunteers of America. There are a multitude of agencies out there that can do an immediate action.
Well, and this is within the VA, right? So they'll put you over to the community care office. Those folks will get a hold of University of Washington and their local hospital, whatever it is, whoever it is that they contract with, right? And you'll go out there into the private practice, like here in Orange County where I am. You can't go to the VA dentist; they're maxed out, and they don't need to hire anybody else. They can't have an entire
Yeah, I
building.
get it. I
And
get it.
so you end up in community care. And so they have to see you within 30 days of the VA. And if they can't do it, then they have to send you out to the community. And so like where I'm at, UC Irvine is one of the main hospitals down here. And
Yeah,
it's an
yeah,
incredible state-of-the-art facility. So we all, if you guys are veterans, you're not using that option. As soon as they say like, hey, yeah, we'll get you your whatever in 6 months, you go, I'll take the community care. And that person knows, they're like, yeah, I'll send you right over right now. And look, community care, another process, you have to fight it. But all this stuff goes into transition and it's all extra stuff. And sometimes you do need an advocate for you, whether it's the
yeah.
post, VFW,
Absolutely.
a veteran friend. And sometimes I only have so much, like I'll advise someone, but that's all the help I have. I'm not a person who focuses on the paperwork, but everybody has a local veteran service office that's tied to the government. That's the federal government. They will help you. They'll get you to counseling. They'll get you to whatever kind of case management service you need, food stamp, whatever it is, they will help you figure out how to get one step better. And that's where it's on us. Those resources are available and they're wonderful and hopefully
Yeah.
temporary because you get a foundation and you go forward. But that's how hard transition is, everybody. Like you have all of these multitude of things, everybody trying to help you, but it's awfully hard to always get the yes when you need it. And that's I think how is the hardest part. I don't know if it has that much to a small local community for like a clinic. I go to one of those, like a community clinic for the VA,
Yeah, that's what I
and
go
it's some
to.
like my the the guy who does acupuncture on me, right? They can't handle the amount of work that they have. And so they can't reliably see me at 30 days. And so I go out and I get better care on
Right.
the community care program and they pay for it. So I'm not paying
Yeah.
anything extra. I'm not paying anything at all. They pay
No, I
for
was
that.
going to bring that up. That's absolutely like if you have a problem and they can't fix it at your VA hospital, they'll send you to Swedish or they'll send you to Providence. And that is
Yeah.
something that was, and staying non political, which I prefer
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Of
always
course.
do, during the original Trump era, that was instituted where that
Yeah.
became a part of the program for the veterans. We were able to go outside and the veterans still covered the cost. So that's a really
Yeah.
good point you brought up, and I'm glad you did. And thank you for that, Pete.
Yeah.
But getting back to the pros
Mm.
and cons of coming out of military service, one of the things that you hit that really struck a chord with me was, ladies and gentlemen, as you come out of the service, it's up to you. You are responsible for your initial actions that you take in the reprocessing of your life. Pete and I are both advocates for the Veterans Administration in so many ways because over the decades that we both used the VA, we have found the channeling through the VA, the opportunities that can be presented. But it's up to you, the individual, to dig them out. And like you said, the VFW Hall, that's a great recommendation.
Yeah.
And then some of the civilian organizations that are out there too. But the trend has changed in the last 30 to 40 years with veterans coming out. Now they're being thanked for their service. Now there are
Yeah.
people that are more recognizing of the capabilities a veteran may have over a civilian that's never had that type of disciplinary background training that we get in the military. All of the things that come into play at a later time in life. Remember my captivity when I got captured on an assignment down there, and I was captured and tortured every single day for 7 weeks before we were rescued as a civilian contractor. VA can't do nothing for me about that other than treat my mental issues behind it. Some of the things I've done are classified, but they were after my military service operating as a contractor. So there are limitations, but what they do is they do have reference and referrals to other ways to benefit you that they can't seem to succeed in. So I really liked that you brought that issue up. So folks, don't give up on yourself. That's the main
Yeah.
issue of the day today. Pete and I, we really feel strong for everyone out there. We love you very, very much. We are there for you. 22 years I've pounded the pavement, sitting with veterans countless times on the sidewalks and hearing their stories, trying to give them direction, trying to give them advice or counsel. But the main problem you run into with is that they become so disconnected.
Yep.
And then their ego and their self-esteem is so hindered and damaged because of repeated failures. Well, we were taught to pick ourselves up, grab that rifle, lock and load, and head and charge into the enemy. Take that same attitude, that same training that you had, and use it to benefit your life out here once you come back into the world. The other thing is networking with other veterans. I have not met a single veteran that wouldn't do just about anything to help another veteran. Whether you're on the street or you've got a good job and you're dealing with personal traumas at the workforce every day, if there's another veteran there, latch on to that person. Create a friendship, create a relationship. Get involved with someone that would have an understanding of what you may or may not be going through at that time in your life. And networking is critical. It's
Yeah.
very critical. You can't do it on your own. And I've lost two very close friends of mine that committed suicide that were veterans. One of them put a gun in his mouth and took his head off. The other one, he had a handful of pills. Called me up to say goodbye. I love you, and I'll see you on the other side. There was nothing I could do for either one of them in those cases. And I carry that loss. It's grief syndrome. Like how come you survived a battle in combat and you were the only one and everybody else died? And you come back and forever you feel guilty.
Yeah.
The same thing applies when you have a brother that's a former veteran or a veteran and a former friend of decades, and he takes his life all of a sudden out of the blue, and you lose this network link. This is what Pete and I wanted the show to try to help people avoid doing. We want you to be aware that when you get that moment of thought, that impulse, it's the critical turning point of your life. With me, I was walking down the hall 12 months ago to take my life, and I had a flash in my mind about the VA suicide hotline, and impulsively clicked it into my phone and made the call. Just impulsively,
Thank goodness.
Well, our life is more important than our death. We still have things to do. There's missions to accomplish. But sometimes we get so low and so depressed, and the nightmares that don't go away, the memories of being in the jungle for me, it comes back, and it always will. But what you have to do is make peace with it, take it out, look at it, talk to it, put it back inside, because it won't go away. And that's the strongest advice I can give to any of you that are out there struggling with advanced PTSD. It's not going to leave you. You need to make peace with it because it will always be there with you. And that's not an easy thing to do, is it, Pete?
No, I know. And a lot of people talk about post-traumatic growth and, PTS. And I'm like, and that's great. Like, if you get to that point where you feel like you've conquered it, I certainly have it. I deal with it every day. And I have to meter my day on it. And, because if I'm having a bad day, then how I'm just having a bad day. And I've had a lot of bad days recently.
Yeah, exactly.
I can manage them better now. And listen, like, if you feel like that's it, there's no more, redos in your life and everything else. Look, let me just tell you, there's so many veterans that I know, and we're just talking veterans, not including all of the other people who aren't veterans who've done the same thing, who have completely destroyed their lives or had their lives destroyed for whatever reason, and they feel like there's nothing left, and they're doing heroin and they're whatever else. I know so many people that have come back from that. And they're
Yeah.
like, man, I was
Yeah,
a
me
mess.
too.
And now we've met these people on this show too, where folks that
Yes.
were just like had no reason to believe that they were going to be redeemed. And yeah, here they are, and they're doing new
Yeah.
things. So it's always possible. And look, if nothing, if it isn't, if you really are done, we'll give it one more try and just see what happens. See if you
I
can
love
get
that.
there, you know.
That,
Why
that,
not?
my friend, that is why we created the Crisis Victory Show. And no matter what your crisis may be in the moment,
Yeah,
victory can surface from it, because when you survive a crisis event in life, you gain and acquire a certain specific knowledge. A wisdom becomes on you. And then if you take that in a positive slant, you don't have to stay, oh my God, I barely made it through that, or oh my God, I
yeah,
lost my best friend, or oh my God. You don't need to take it in that direction. Instead, when you recover from the moment
yeah,
after a crisis event, you need to go, wow, now I understand this. How can I apply this to others? And
yeah,
that's exactly what I've devoted my life to. And you too, Pete. We
yeah,
both do
yeah.
the same
No, for
thing.
sure.
So
Yeah. I see this all
anyway,
the time. We talked to a dude that was on fire, a cop, right? You know,
yeah, we did. What an
and
interview. Jeez.
yeah, and he was it's just by luck that he survived. And he had fourth degree burns, everybody. Fourth, right?
Yes,
They
yes, he
thought he
did.
was a brisket, I mean a briquette when they brought him out. He was so charcoal. And he's like, it's the most important thing in my life. It was
Look,
everything was meant to happen in that order. And I was launched forward. He was horribly scarred. And
yeah,
oh my God, he's just like the best guy. His name is Jason Sheckerly.
yeah,
And
just an amazing. He was an
yeah,
amazing man, and now he's out there using that crisis event, and he's talking to the multitudes of people, and he's sharing his story, and he is so darn positive. Pete, I love that guy. I was so
yeah,
glad you got him on our show.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
well, listen. Before we
Can
wrap
I
up
say one more
today,
thing, Hal?
yes,
You
of
get
course.
40 episodes, my man. 40
I know, I
episodes.
know. I'm so excited.
Do you know
It's
how
really,
unlikely that is? Like just to get to this spot, man.
yeah,
That's exactly what we're talking about here. That perseverance and getting after it. It is hard, 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 hard. Most everybody in the world will never have a show that goes for 40 episodes. And you're
well,
not even close to quitting. So
no,
congratulations. It's
thanks,
huge.
brother. Thank you. It's the support I have. I have you, I have Victor Mojica, and I have an audience of people that come into play and make connections with us and want to come on and share their crisis event. So I love every one of you for that. God bless every one of you for that. Look what we're doing. We're getting stories out there that have meaning and purpose, and they're significant. And I tell you, I'm grateful for you, Pete. Thank you for helping me get this show up and running. It's an honor to work with you, and I'm really blessed to have you in my life. And I'm hoping we're passing this forward and blessing others with these
Let's hope.
interviews. Well, I'm
Let's
good
hope.
to go. I don't have anything else to add other than closing out to all of you and letting you know that you're in our thoughts and our prayers. Pete and I understand the struggle with each and every one of you veterans as you're coming out and you're a little disillusioned. Get your network going through fellow veterans, organizations that have an understanding of what you may or may not be dealing with. Go to college if you have the opportunity on your GI Bill. That opens up a multitude of options. You're going to meet people there. You're going to look at all kinds of different career-related events that you didn't even know existed. So this is all on you. You have to do the work yourself to get yourself out there. But listen, there's a lot of availability to help you when you do. And with that, I say hasta luego y vaya con Dios. Okay, folks. Well, that wraps up another episode today. And I'd like to take this moment to thank each and every one of you for taking your time to catch our show. Now, if you like these shows, I would ask that you would please hit like, share, and subscribe. It's so important to us that we get these messages out, and we understand that these are graphic, almost toxic interviews. But, this is the kind of impact that we feel is needed in order to make sure that people understand the significance of the problems that we are confronted within our own country and around the globe. So I'm going to say at this time that I love you all. God bless you all. Hasta luego, y vaya con Dios, and go Victors.